The top stories tonight in Y News. Bayanihan 2 not certified as urgent by President Duterte according to Malacanang, while state adjourns the first regular session of 18th Congress without passing the bill.
The World Health Organization, UN, pauses the hydroxychloroquine arm of its solidarity trial.
Some senior citizen drivers appeal to be allowed to operate again in Metro Manila.
The MMDA will implement its modified number coding scheme from June 8 as approved by Metro Manila mayors.
Travelers non-compliant with UK quarantine rules face a 1,000 sterling penalty, prosecution, or deportation.
Fever-detecting hospital robots roll in Belgian hospitals and shops. Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Thursday, June 4, 2020. Join us in the next 45 minutes as we deliver today's top stories around the globe. I am Angelo Castro III.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am William Theo.
First in the news, Malacanang says President Duterte will not certify as urgent the extension of the Bayanihan We Heal as One Act now. The palace released its statement after the Senate passed on its second reading Bayanihan 2. On Wednesday, the House of Representatives approved the substitute bill which will extend the validity of the Bayanihan law. The two houses of Congress have only until Friday, June 5 to pass the bill before the CND adjournment. Once enacted, President Duterte will have additional powers under the law until September 30, 2020. After finding out there had been delays in the release of financial assistance to health workers infected with coronavirus while on duty, President Rodrigo Duterte felt angry, according to his spokesperson. Now the chief executive gave an ultimatum to concerned government agency. They have until June 9, Tuesday, to release the sickness and death benefits for healthcare workers who are qualified beneficiaries. Secretary Harry Roque, presidential spokesperson.
Galit na galit ang presidente. Hanggang Tuesday next week, kailangan maibigay po yung assistance na yan dahil yan po ay nasa batas.
According to the Bayanihan to Heal as One law, health workers with severe cases of COVID-19 shall receive 100,000 pesos, while the families of medical frontliners who died from the disease shall receive 1 million pesos. On Tuesday, some senators expressed dismay after learning that not a single health worker affected by the infectious disease has received the benefits prescribed by the Bayanihan law. According to reports, lack of implementing rules and regulations delayed the release of the benefit. The Department of Health is set to issue today a joint administrative order for the implementation of the distribution of financial assistance for healthcare workers hit by COVID-19 and the families of those who had died from the disease. Aiko Miguel, our health correspondent, will join us tonight to tell us why live. Yes, Aiko, good evening.
Yes, Diego, good evening. The Department of Health has contacted the families of the 32 healthcare workers who died from COVID-19. They have also talked to the 79 healthcare workers who are severely hit by the virus. And Diego, based on a DOH report, the Department of Budget and Management and the Department of Labor and Employment have signed the administrative order this afternoon for the distribution of the financial assistance. The DOH explains the delay.
Alam naman natin na marami dun sa mga gastusin ngayon ay kinukuha lang natin sa mga realigned budget namin, especially for those logistics na pangangailangan natin.
100 million pesos has been allotted for the Health Department's Medical Assistance Fund for the beneficiaries. The DOH also assures they will release the assistance immediately once the families and healthcare workers complete the documentary requirements.
Kung sakasakali na tayo ay maka-receive na ng mga documentary requirements na kinakailangan ng ating gobyerno para makapag-release tayo ng pera.
Now, Diego, the Health Department is preparing the checks, what with the budget already prepared. Based on the DOH report, there are now 2,675 healthcare workers in the country who have contracted COVID-19 as of today. And that is the latest update. Diego.
Thank you for your report, Aiko Miguel.
The Senate has adjourned its first regular session of the 18th Congress. In his closing speech, Senate President Vicente Soto III thanked his colleagues and reported the accomplishments of the upper chamber in the first regular session, which included 8 bills signed into law and 2 bills pending approval of the president. However, the Senate were not able to pass Senate Bill number 1564, or the Bayanihan to Recover as One Act that was aimed to replace the Republic Act 11469, or the Bayanihan to Heal as One Act, which will expire this month. Hours before the Senate adjourned, the senators waited for the certification as urgent of the Bayanihan 2, but nothing came from the palace. The Bayanihan 2 Recover as One Act seeks to continue the special powers given to the president to address the COVID-19 crisis in the country until September 30, 2020. This includes the appropriation of 140 billion pesos as standby fund to respond to the sectors and industries heavily affected by the pandemic, which include 10 billion pesos for the procurement of COVID-19 testing equipment and other medical supplies, and 15 billion pesos for the Cash for Work program and emergency subsidy to workers in critically affected industries. The bill also aims to provide 1-month financial aid to low-income households who are qualified for the government subsidy program but were not able to receive in the past 3 months. It also directs the government to provide tuition subsidies to students who are not currently receiving any assistance from the government's educational subsidy program but are now facing financial difficulties brought about by the crisis. The Bayanihan 2 also directs the Land Bank of the Philippines, the Social Security System, and the Government Service and Insurance System to provide loans and discounts for those who will purchase electronic gadgets such as laptops, tablets, and smartphones for the expected shift to blended learning. The Senate will reopen on July 27. The National Task Force on COVID-19 reveals that the Philippines has reached more than 41,000 testing capacity for coronavirus. However, Deputy Chief Implementer Vince Dizon admits that due to the lack of laboratory supplies and testing kits, the country's actual testing capacity is only 10,000 per day. Dizon adds, due to a higher testing capacity, the government is looking at including frontliners with no symptoms of COVID-19 in the targeted testing.
If you remember, the World Health Organization had temporarily paused the hydroxychloroquine arm of its Solidarity trial. Now, the WHO chief says they are now unpausing the trial. Kath Dumaraos tells us why.
The World Health Organization, or WHO, is set to resume its trial of hydroxychloroquine for potential use against the new coronavirus, its head, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, said on Wednesday. Hitting the pause button was done because of concerns raised about the safety of the anti-malarial drug. In particular, are reports of increased death rates and irregular heartbeats in patients.
The Data Safety and Monitoring Committee of the Solidarity Trial has been reviewing the data.
Dr. Tedros said yesterday that WHO experts had advised the continuation of all trials, including hydroxychloroquine.
On the basis of the available mortality data, the members of the committee recommended that there are no reasons to modify the trial protocol. The executive group received this recommendation and endorsed the continuation of all arms of solidarity trial, including hydroxychloroquine.
So far, more than 3,500 patients have been recruited in 35 countries for the Solidarity Trial, the WHO chief added. Meanwhile, WHO's Deputy Director General for Programs, Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, a pediatrician from India and a globally recognized researcher, said that as of now, there is no evidence that any drug actually reduces mortality in patients who have COVID-19.
We hope that the ongoing trials will continue till we have definitive answers, because that's what the world needs today. We owe it to the patients to have a definitive answer on whether or not a drug works or doesn't work.
The WHO adds it is committed to accelerating the development of effective therapeutics, vaccines, and diagnostics. Kat Dumaraos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The national government now allows religious gatherings and work conferences, but there is a limit. Meanwhile, the Interagency Task Force Against COVID-19 revises its guidelines for the movement of persons in area placed under modified general community quarantine. Our Malacanang correspondent, Rosalie Cos, will explain why.
If you are living in an area under Modified General Community Quarantine or MGCQ, you may take note that religious gatherings and work conferences are now allowed. But keep in mind that minimum health standards such as physical distancing, wearing a face mask, and proper hand hygiene, among others, should be strictly observed all the time. But there's a limit.
Sa mga MGCQ pa lamang po, pwede na pong magkaroon ng mass gatherings para sa religious purposes. Pero po, hanggang 50% lamang ng seating capacity.
This move is in accordance with Interagency Task Force Against Coronavirus Disease Resolution Number 43. Meanwhile, the IATF also revises its rules on the movement of persons in MGCQ areas. MGCQ is the least strict community quarantine being implemented in most parts of the country. Not all residents will be allowed to go outdoors. Persons without any essential activity to do or are not authorized persons outside residence, including individuals 21 years old below, senior citizens, persons with immunodeficiency, comorbidity, and other health risk, as well as pregnant women, should stay home at all times. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, travel between cities within Metro Manila is now given the green light without a travel pass. That's particularly for essential and emergency-related trips. Leia Ilagan tells us why.
The Joint Task Force COVID Shield gives the green light to intercity travel within Metro Manila without a travel pass. But JTF CV Shield Commander, Police Lieutenant General Guillermo Eleazar underscores the intercity trip is allowed only for emergency-related and essential trips only.
Kung ikaw ay nasa Metro Manila, pwede ka mag-travel within Metro Manila. Ibig sabihin nun, from one city to another, hindi ka na kailangan kumuha pa ng travel pass.
The JTF CV Shield also appeals to the public to go to shopping malls within their localities only when necessary. But as for inter-provincial travel, General Eleazar explains there is still a need to acquire a travel pass except for authorized persons outside of residence or APOR ID holders.
Pag magkocross ka na ng border ng probinsya or NCR, kailangan mo na ang travel authority unless ikaw ay APOR at namatayan ka, yung mga immediate family, and then meron kang yung mga medical ba na dati mong ginagawa na like dialysis. So, iaalaw na yun kung magkocross ka ng border, kung malapit din lang yun doon.
Those who will apply for a travel pass need to secure a medical certificate from the Barangay Health Office stating they had satisfied the 14-day quarantine. They must bring the medical certificate to the nearest police station as a requirement in applying for a travel pass. The police station will process the application and coordinate with authorities in the place of destination. The police station will inform the applicant if the travel pass is approved and when it is ready for pickup. Even locally stranded individuals may apply for such travel pass. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, the World Health Organization notes that the number of cases in Europe continues to decline. This week saw the fewest cases reported in Europe since the 22nd of March, the UN agency said. It adds that more than 100,000 cases of COVID-19 have been reported to WHO for each of the past 5 days. Russia, the United Kingdom, Spain, Italy, Germany, and France, and the European countries with the highest numbers of cases as of today. The Americas account for the most cases. For several weeks, the number of cases reported each day in the Americas has been more than the rest of the world put together, according to the WHO. In particular, are Central and South America with accelerating epidemics. The USA, Brazil, Peru, Chile, Mexico, and Canada are the countries in the Americas with cases close to or have surpassed the 100,000 mark. There are also increasing numbers of cases in the Eastern Mediterranean, Southeast Asia, and Africa, although the numbers are much smaller. WHO vows to continue to work through its regional and country offices to monitor the pandemic, to support countries to respond, and to adapt its guidance for every situation. Meanwhile, in the Philippines, the number of COVID-19 cases has breached the 20,000 mark as of 4 p.m. today. The Department of Health says there are 20,382 total confirmed positives. That includes 634 cases reported today. We have lost 10 more patients. Now the country's death toll stands at close to 1,000. With the help of our valiant medical frontliners, 95 more people have won their battle against the invisible enemy. That brings the total recoveries nationwide to more than 4,200.
Some senior citizen drivers appeal to the government to be allowed to operate again. Dante Amento tells us why.
Public buses, modern jeepneys, UV Express, and other public utility vehicles are allowed to operate with a limited capacity starting June 22 to serve Metro Manila commuters. Operators and drivers must maintain physical distancing in their vehicles at all times. But based on the guidelines from the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board or LTFRB, drivers who are in their 60s are not allowed back on the roads. This is because they belong to the vulnerable sector or those at high risk or prone to contracting COVID-19. After hearing this, some senior citizen drivers are appealing to be allowed to operate. One of them is 76-year-old Alberto Manuel Jr., who has been a PUV driver for more than 5 decades.
Ano lisensya ko? 2023 pa eh. Expired 2023. Pagdating ng 2023, ang edad na lisensya ko, 59 years, mag-senior citizen na rin. Malakas pa rin ako, malino pa mata ko.
While for both Carlito Tumbaga and Alan Ocampo, senior citizens who want to work a living must be allowed to do so.
Parang inaalisan na nilang karapatan ng isang tao, ang isang senior bilang isang gusto pang magtrabaho.
Sa akin, hanggat malakas ang isang tao kahit senior na, dapat hindi.
The UNTV news team is trying to get the LTFRB's reaction on the matter, but the agency has yet to make any comments. Dante Amento, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Baguio City's tourism department plans to revitalize the city from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. According to the Department of Tourism, Baguio City's tourism sector has lost around 1.3 billion pesos in revenues from February to May this year. Aside from intra-tourism or marketing among local residents, opening the summer capital's tourism to nearby provinces with either zero or low cases of coronavirus infections is seen as a way to revive the city's economy. The DOT also considers the potential of offline platforms in selling delicacies, art crafts, and souvenirs. This is also in preparation for the Creative Festival in November. The agency also plans to implement a one-day or a monthly closure of the city's premier tourist spots during the lean period when there are low tourist arrivals. This is to maintain the beauty and cleanliness of the city's main tourist attractions. And Balik Probinsya Executive Director confirms they are set to roll out the second batch of sending off our nationals who wish to go back to their provinces. In particular are those going to Leyte, Samar, Negros Occidental, Northern Samar, Camarines Sur, Eastern Samar, Zamboanga Norte, and Lanao del Norte. The first trips will be for those returning to Leyte. That is on June 11. According to GM Marcelino Escalada Jr., the National Housing General Manager and Executive Director of Balik Probinsya, Bagong Pag-asa, 100 qualified enrollees will be the next to travel, while June 12 will be the trip for those going back to Camarines Sur after talks with Governor Miguel Luis Villafuerte. GM Escalada says they hope to get schedules for Zamboanga Norte and Lanao del Norte in the coming days. The pilot project was on May 20th, 2020, when more than 100 Filipinos were transported to their hometowns and provinces. There are about 79,000 enrollees in the BP2 program within the National Capital Region as of today. GM Escalada reminds there are two ways to enroll in the program. One is online through the balikprobinsya.ph website and in Balik Probinsya centers in barangays. GM Escalada encourages online enrollment to avoid contracting COVID-19. While for those with no internet access or smartphones, you may enroll at the barangay level Balik Probinsya centers.
William Jago, we are on board the UNTV radio mobile booth, and we are here in Commonwealth Avenue in Novaliches, Quezon City. Let's take a look at the situation on the road. Jago Williams, so far we have a light to at times moderate traffic here along Commonwealth Avenue going to Quezon City Circle. We have the same situation so far on the other side of the road, light to moderate vehicle traffic going to Fairview. Meanwhile, a fresh traffic advisory beginning Monday, June 8, the Metropolitan Manila Development Authority, or MMDA, will implement what it calls the Modified Unified Vehicular Volume Reduction Program, or the Modified Number Coding Scheme, during the COVID-19 pandemic, as approved by the Metro Manila Council, or MMC. The MMDA says all private vehicles, provided that there are two or more passengers, including the driver, physical distancing is strictly observed. All passengers shall wear face mask. Owner-driven or self-driven private motor vehicles of doctors, nurses, and other medical personnel are also exempt from the number coding scheme. Even authorized persons outside residence also excused from this traffic rule, as specified on the recent IATF guidelines. Meanwhile, operators of Transport Network Vehicle Service, or TNVS, are required to place a signage so they could easily be recognized as TNVS. The regulation was unanimously approved by the Metro Manila mayors during their May 26 video conference, according to MMDA. The move is based on MMDA Regulation 2020-001, Series of 2020. Now, coming from Malacanang regarding the issue on tricycles or vehicles similarly situated, Interior and Local Government Secretary Eduardo Año clarified that although apprehension from the Highway Patrol Group is temporarily suspended, such are still prohibited from traversing the national highways. Also, the no backride policy remains in place for motorcycle riders, even for couples or relatives, to observe the physical distancing protocol.
Experts say that wearing a face mask lowers the risk of virus infection. Here in the Philippines, the government orders the mandatory wearing of face masks, especially in public areas. If you still don't have a mask and plan to buy some, here are a few buying tips from Mon Hokson.
The Department of Science and Technology, or DOST, is eyeing to produce 500,000 rewearable or reusable face masks. The face mask will be given to all frontliners, such as health workers and law enforcers at checkpoints. The government believes that wearing a face mask is important as measure against coronavirus transmission, hence making it mandatory. Based on research, whether it's a medical face mask or not, masks can slow down the spread of viral loads by 80%. That is why it is better to wear a mask, especially when in public places. For those who will not receive a free face mask from the government, you can buy a face mask for a reasonable price, be it disposable or reusable. Here are some tips from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC, and the World Health Organization. First, a mask should fit snugly on the face. Second, it must be secured with a tie or ear loops. Third, it must include multiple layers of fabric. Fourth, the face mask should allow breathing without restriction. And fifth, face mask, when washable, must not be damaged or there must be no change in shape. According to the WHO, it is also important to consider the fabric used in making face masks. The most effective design, according to research, is a dual-layered mask made of cotton fabric. You can buy many face masks online that follow the WHO guidelines. Just like the face mask made by EFS Garment, it is made of cotton, snug fit, dual-layered fabric, and comfortable to wear. You can buy it online using the Shopee app on your smartphone for a reasonable price. There are many other choices online, so you won't need to go outdoors and face the risk of getting infected. Just remember that face masks can help us against COVID-19, but it is not a 100% protection against the virus, so we still need to be extra cautious and most of all, pray. Mon Hokson, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
A video of an 83-year-old man who received a free bicycle has gone viral among netizens. One of our senior correspondents, Joan Nano, went there personally to meet the bike shop owner, the benefactor in this story.
The UNTV news team went to Pasay City today to meet the owner of Carb's Bike Shop, where Carlos Samonte's bicycle came from. According to Fe Carandang, since they reopened their shop last May 16, Lolo Carlos has been dropping by their shop daily to ask if he could buy a mini bike at only 2,000 pesos. Its original price is 4,800 pesos. Carandang family found out the old man walks from Villamor, Pasay City to Ayala, Makati every single day to sell candies on the sidewalk. Out of sympathy, the family decided to sell the bike to Carlos at the price he requested. But eventually, they decided to give the mini bike for free.
Sabi nung anak kong isang sundalo na babae, "Kuya, ibigay mo na sa tawad niya." O sabi niya, sige. Kaya ang ano namin, ibigay namin sa tawad niya. Pero kahapon, paraw ako na ano sa, nung makita ko yung matanda, sabi ko, tay, ibibigay, irigalo namin sa iyo yan. Kaya ako yun na, parang tinesting ko kung talagang mayroon siya talagang pera. Kaya na sabi ko, ibinabalik ko sa iyo ito. Regalo namin sa iyo.
Lolo Carlos also received free padlocks so that his new bike won't be stolen. According to Fe, she was moved by the old man's sacrifices just to earn money for his family.
At saka yung bang naisip ko, yung hirap ng paglalakad niya. Kaya na ibigay na lang sa kanya yung bike. Kahit na kunti na lang yung aming stock, sabi ko ibigay na namin.
Lolo Carlos narrates that selling candies has been his bread and butter for years. They used to live in Makati City then, but later transferred to Pasay City. He earns around 400 pesos daily from selling candies.
Minsan nasisita ko ng sabi, pinapakita ko yung ID ko. Senior daw ako, maraming masakyan kaya naglalakad lang ako.
Although his family had been asking him to stop selling, Lolo Carlos still insists because he wants to help his family.
Hanggang kaya ko na. Hindi na. Kung talagang kukunin ka sa taas, okay lang. Talagang pangarap ko talaga ang bisikleta.
With his new bicycle, the long intercity walks are gone.
Papasalamat ako. Marami sila matulungan na katulad ko.
Ang biling ko lang sa iyo, Tay, mag-ingat ka sa pagbabike araw-araw. Magdasal para maano ka sa aksidente.
With this act of kindness, Karandang family hoped they could influence other people to help other people in need, especially in this time of health crisis. Johanano, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Department of Trade and Industry warns online sellers who do not publicly indicate price tags for their products sold via the internet. Let's find out why from Asher Kadapan Jr.
Due to the increasing number of customers, e-commerce entrepreneur Lizelle Salazar avoids inquiries about her products by posting the product information including the price.
Pinopost ko yung mga presyo kasi nga unang-una nalilito ko dyan eh. Kung kunyari sa dami nga ng items na pinopost ko, para mabilisan din kasi ayaw ng mga buyer na nag-ihintay. Tatanungin ka lang ng how much, inabot ka na ng ilang minuto. Gusto nila ura-urada.
But some online sellers tend to not disclose the price of their products. Instead, they encourage customers to discuss through private messaging. But this is illegal based on the Philippine law. Based on Republic Act 7394 or the Consumer Act of the Philippines, it is unlawful to offer any consumer retail product without indication of its price. Republic Act 7581 or the Price Act also does not permit grossly excessive profit for the sale or offering of sale of any basic necessities and prime commodities. A seller, whether online or other platforms, may face charges relating to profiteering, which has a penalty of 5 to 15 years of imprisonment. A fine of 5,000 pesos to 2 million pesos also face violators. Such unlawful act may be reported to the Department of Trade and Industry through its hotline number 1384. Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And for the news abroad, here's Jovic Bermas live from London, United Kingdom. Good afternoon, Jovic. How are you doing?
Good evening, William, and to Diego and Harleen. I feel very well, thank you. I hope you are too.
Yes, Jovic, what have you got for us today?
William, in a little while, I will be reporting about the new quarantine rules here in the UK, the easing of lockdown in some worst hit European countries by the pandemic, and how they have begun reopening domestic and international land and air travels. But first, William, let me tell you about a team of scientists from Guy's and St. Thomas Hospital and King's College here in London who are now trialing the use of ibuprofen for coronavirus patients experiencing breathing difficulties. Contrary to the popular belief early in the pandemic that non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs or NSAIDs like ibuprofen can aggravate the symptoms of patients with COVID-19. However, studies in animals show that the painkiller ibuprofen can treat acute respiratory distress, which is common to seriously ill COVID-19 patients, though a slightly modified formulation of ibuprofen is being used in the said trial. Meanwhile, William, I will be telling you a story as well why health authorities in Thailand also attribute some of the country's success to frontline health volunteers who help the government collect daily health information.
So Vic, later, basically, UK was one of the worst hit, right, of the European countries. I hope things are better. So please tell us why.
Yes, William, starting Monday, 8th of June, all arrivals here in the UK are required to isolate for 14 days as part of the quarantine plans announced by British Home Secretary Priti Patel on Wednesday at the House of Commons. This comes as the government believes that UK residents are more vulnerable to the coronavirus brought in from abroad. The Home Secretary also adds that domestic recovery should not be put at risk due to a reckless minority. Tourists arriving in the UK have to fill out a form with their contact details and the address where they will be isolating for 14 days. Failing to comply with the mandatory quarantine period could result in prosecution and a penalty fine of 1,000 sterling pounds or $1,250. The government can also impose deportation as a last resort if a non-UK resident fails to isolate. Elsewhere in another European nation, Italy, Italians are now able to move between regions with Wednesday's changes. Domestic travel was prohibited when Italy's lockdown came into effect in early March, although a small number of exemptions were allowed. Tourism was also prohibited and those entering Italy faced a 14-day quarantine. Now, travel to and from other European countries has been permitted, depending on the rules in the destination country, but non-European travel remains off limits. Shops, cafes, and restaurants have opened their doors again, and tourist sites, including the Colosseum, have begun welcoming tourists in recent days. We deserve to smile, to be cheerful after weeks of great sacrifice, Italian Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte said. He added the entire nation has to deal with the economic and social emergency. The Prime Minister underscored the government was working to speed up social payments and pledge a serious tax reform. But he also continued to urge caution amid the pandemic, noting that the only effective measures against the virus are physical distancing and the use of masks. Abandoning these precautions is seriously thoughtless, he added. Germany will lift a travel ban for European Union member states plus Britain, Iceland, Norway, Liechtenstein, and Switzerland from June 15. But that is as long as there are no entry bans or large-scale lockdowns in those countries, German Foreign Minister Heiko Maas said on Wednesday. The official added all countries concerned met those criteria except Norway due to an entry ban, and Spain, where he said Parliament was deciding whether to extend an entry ban. Maas said the travel warning would be replaced with guidelines, adding that Germans would be urged not to travel to Britain when not essential, while a 14-day quarantine is in place.
Wir haben heute im Kabinett beschlossen, dass wir die
travel warnings are not travel bans, and travel advisories are not travel invitations. This is what we want to make clear in the travel advisories, which can contain the information that we strongly advise against a certain trip, such as Great Britain, as long as there is a 14-day mandatory quarantine for all people arriving there.
Meanwhile, in Thailand, where our fellow Kath de Morales is at, 77-year-old Surin Macrady goes door to door in her village in Central nearly every day. Yes, she's a grandmother, but her life's work includes 38 years of volunteering. Now, in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic, she is part of the Village Health Volunteers, a network of over 1 million community workers that are part of a program dating back to the Cold War era. Her job is to go to people's houses to do temperature checks, as well as closely monitor people who have returned from other provinces and need to be quarantined for 14 days.
I think of people in the village as my family. If I don't educate them, they will not understand the risk of getting infected. I receive information from the sub-province hospital and pass it on to them.
Isn't she scared of contracting the disease herself?
I'm scared, but I'm protecting myself from getting infected by wearing a face shield, sanitizing my hands, and staying 1 meter away.
Surin is proud of her job even though she's not earning any money. She says that she's blessed that people are admiring her work, and that's a way to pay it forward. Now, isn't that admirable? But Grandma Surin, be sure to take care of yourself too. We salute and pray for all COVID-19 frontliners around the world. Meanwhile, Australia's Great Barrier Reef suffered its third coral bleaching event in the last 5 years during March 2020. Now, scientists are worried that the gaps between the bleaching events is not long enough for a full recovery. Maria Latoza tells us why.
February 2020 was the hottest month on record since records began in 1900s, according to Australia's Bureau of Meteorology. Terry Hughes, director of the Arc Center of Excellence for Coral Reef Studies at James Cook University, says it wasn't just the hottest February. It was hotter than any preceding January or March as well.
So we saw record-breaking temperatures all along the length of the Great Barrier Reef. There wasn't a cool portion in the north or a cool portion in the south this time around. The whole Barrier Reef was hot. So the bleaching we've seen this year is the most extensive so far.
Hughes added that he is now almost certain that the reef is not going to recover to what it looked like even 5 years ago, not to mention 30 years ago.
It's shifting surprisingly rapidly. We're not quite sure what it's shifting to, but we could be quite confident that the mix of species will be different. It's already different now from just 5 years ago, and that there'll be less coral than there used to be.
With industries across the globe attributing less pollution due to lockdowns amid the coronavirus pandemic, Hughes said that the halt in pollution has done nothing for the reef and that the presence or absence of tourism does not make any difference in terms of global warming.
So we're very concerned as scientists about the shrinking gap between one bleaching event and the next. They are no longer rare events. They're happening more and more frequently.
The Great Barrier Reef, covering 348,000 square kilometers, was World Heritage listed in 1981 as the most extensive and spectacular coral reef ecosystem on the planet, according to the UNESCO website. Maria Latoza, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And those are the reasons behind the news here in the United Kingdom and in other parts of the globe. William.
Thank you, Jovic Vermas, reporting live from London, United Kingdom.
A fever-detecting robot has been running to and from hospitals in Belgium. Its maker takes pride of its many functions and the many languages it can speak. Nina Armilio tells us why.
Robots that speak more than 53 languages detect fever,
and determine if people are wearing face masks properly have been rolled out in Belgium as a first line of control in hospitals and shops. People arriving at the University Hospital Antwerp will answer a few questions online or at an interactive kiosk. The robot will scan a QR code, review the people's answers, check their temperature, and determine if they are wearing a face mask properly. Michael Van Michelin, manager of the hospital's operating theaters, said the robot can help the staff control the flow of 2,000 patients and visitors arriving at the hospital each day, a task he described as challenging and time-consuming.
We need the technology to help us to realize that, because otherwise the processes will be too difficult and too time-consuming to ensure the flow of patients into the hospital. So this can be a help.
Fabrice Goffin, chief executive of Belgium-based Zorobots, said his robots had been in hospitals, care homes, and hotels since 2013, but had now found a new role. His robots will not test anybody for COVID-19, but can provide useful signs. The entrepreneur said someone displaying signs of fever could be steered by the robot, an untouched device, to a separate area. The robots, typically costing 30,000 euros or 1,000 euros per month, had also been sold to clinics in France, the Netherlands, the United States, and Rwanda, he said. Nina Armilio, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
And those are the reasons behind the news, June 4, 2020. I am Harleen Delgado. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I'm Angelo Castro III.
And I am William Theo. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. Have a great evening.